Buenos días.
Buenos días.
¿Cómo están ustedes?
Muy bien.
Muy bien, gracias. Hoy vamos a aprender un poquito de español. ¿Está bien? ¿Sí?
Sí.
Español, la clase de español. La diferencia es que vamos a aprender español por medio del Internet, utilizando el programa de Confer. ¿Está bien, clase? ¿Sí? ¿Sí? ¿Le gusta la idea? Muy bien. Okay. Thank you, first of all. Last, but definitely not least, thank you for being so forgiving. I'm saying this ahead because I'm trying something totally different, and Blaine and Michelle have been so great to say, just do it. So I'm going to try, and I'm going to take you into the trenches this morning. Florida State College and Los Medanos College have come together for a joint project that I would like to talk to you about this morning that I'm hoping will be the new cutting edge to foreign language learning in the nation. So it's a big step for all of us, but we're going to start with these little steps, and today you will be history because we're going to try it out for the very first time live between San Diego, California and Antigua, Guatemala. And we're going to see how it works. So at the end of my presentation, we're going to pipe right into Confer and see if it's working. So bear with me. What I'd like to do is give you a little history of the evolution of language learning using Confer. Close to 10 years ago, John Gonder, who's another meter, and I designed a class online in simple Spanish grammar. It was the first course that was designed and implemented for the Contra Costa Community College District. And we were the ones, John and myself. It became the most popular class simply because it was the only online class offered at the district, especially at Los Medanos College. Everybody wanted to join. Interestingly enough, how many years later? 10, 12 years later, it's still the most popular class in the World Languages Department, which is my department at Los Medanos. After finishing my doctorate in teaching and learning online, University of Maryland and Florida State College picked me up as an instructional designer, which was very, very fun, designing online courses for the universities. But at the same time, it allowed me to learn what I needed to know to be more effective for the California Community College system. So I thought today I would just take you through sort of a dry run of a course that is totally online. It's a 4-unit Spanish transferable course, a similar course that I teach at Los Medanos College in Pittsburgh, but in a hybrid form. So in California, I'm teaching hybrid. In Florida, I'm teaching 100% online. The discussion that I'd like to have with you today is, I'm going to say, technical, political, social, from the perspective of the instructor, the instructional designer, and the student and administration. So one of the things I'd like to talk about first is simply the course room. The students at Los Medanos College and Florida State enter a Blackboard classroom. Of course, this is a very high-end enterprise Blackboard classroom in Florida, with the intent of learning Spanish totally online. So people will say to me and to others, how is it that you can learn a foreign language online? Back when we originally started teaching a full 5-unit course of Spanish transferable, accredited by the UC and CSU systems, it was a real hard sell with my administration. Now, how is it that you're doing that, Laurie? How can you actually get the students to learn the language effectively? What's the live learning? What's the student-instructor contact? So I had to really think about that. And actually, that was the reason I went back to do my PhD in this, because I thought, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it right. So after 3 years of intense learning in an online learning environment doing my doctorate, I came back, worked for Florida, Maryland, and LMC, and started looking at how do you really, truly, effectively teach foreign language in an online environment the way it should be taught. So initially, the only thing we had were files, and they were the WIMBA files. And Blaine and I had talked about that earlier. I'm going to show you what my students in Florida do. This is a Wimba voice board. And are you familiar with Wimba? Yeah. This is really all I had. This is their final exam for this last semester. I don't know how much of it you'll be able to hear, but you get a sense of what they do is they will post audio clips for me. What's nice about it is at the beginning of the semester, I get the really rough Spanish. You know, hola, ¿cómo está usted? You know, and bless their hearts, they have these southern accents to go along with it. So it's not the barrier of the language, it's the accent. You know. A lot of them are military, they call me ma'am, and I'm like, how do I deal with ma'am? Yeah, so bless their hearts. So in the end, I can go back and look at their first voice clips, and I can look at their listen to their last voice clips, and I see a huge difference in the language acquisition. So this just gives you an example. They do these often for me. If we can't be live, they leave me a voice clip or they send me a voice email, of course. This might be difficult to listen to, but we'll try. And this was Juan. He is a student in the military. Many of them are, I don't know if you can hear it really well, but when I hear this, compared to his first clip, it is 100% improvement in his language acquisition. It's amazing. So this is very valuable still, because I can use it as an archive for grading. But it's still not, I mean, it's just amazing his language skill right now. And this is totally online class. Well, anyway, I also want to invite you, if you'd ever like to be a visitor in any of my online classes, just email me and I'll put you in as a visitor. But nonetheless, your Wimba voice board is, you know, it's okay. I mean, it's something that you can utilize to archive short voice clips. You can ask them very specific questions related to each chapter. We do basic, la familia, las clases, la casa, just various questions that you can get a sense of the development of their language acquisition in an audio file. Now, of course, I'm a lot like all of you, and I believe that you need to have more than that. The asynchronous discussion board, I've given up trying to have them write in Spanish because we do a lot of that in the My Spanish Lab through the textbook. The discussion board, we talk about culture. We discuss what's happening in Latin America, current events. The students can write their reflections on immigration, especially Florida and California are real hotspots with Cuba and Mexico. So we do a lot of that type of thing in the discussion boards. It's very limited. So my asynchronous portion of my course is extremely limited. I try and do as much as I can in active learning and live learning. So Confer has been great. The setbacks for Confer, and of course, this is something that we've talked about before, I tried to reflect in a study. I have online at losmedanos.edu all of these studies. I did 2 studies as distance education chair and curriculum committee representative for online of student performance in online classes. When I started to look at what was happening on my campus, Florida's campus, Maryland's campus, in terms of Spanish, because that was my area of expertise in teaching Spanish, I realized that the students were not getting the direct instructor-student contact other than these course rooms and the Wimba files. And I don't think that's quality teaching. So before anybody would fund me or be on my side and cheerlead with me for the students, I had to do the research. So over 2 years period of time, I did a research in student performance in online classes with the Office of Instructional Research. And my intent was to prove that the courses that were totally online in course rooms like Blackboard with asynchronous learning were not as effective. Of course, I had a reason when I walked in, so my questions that I posed, you know, sort of lent themselves, but don't all researchers do that anyway, that's what we do. So what we had done the first year was just look at student retention and persistence, and we found out that there was no real difference between fully online and face-to-face courses in terms of student performance. So they were pretty much performing at the same level. Actually, the online courses were performing a bit less than the face-to-face. The second year, the intent was to find out the courses that were taught fully online with an active live learning component versus the courses that were taught fully online with an asynchronous methodology, and then looking at a classroom, and with hopefully the same instructor. So the variables were very difficult. We were able to get computer science, English, and my Spanish class. The study showed that the instructors that used Confer, this study, that integrated Confer into a portion of their learning for that course in particular, whether it be English, computer science, Spanish, had a higher retention rate, success rate, persistence rate, and we looked at grade outcomes. And we saw more A's and B's. We saw almost 90% retention rate in those classes. Once I had this data, I was able to go into the curriculum committee, the grant writer, the president's office. He wouldn't listen to me. And he would say, Laurie, you know, you have great ideas. You've always had great ideas. Salud. He would say, but you have to prove them before you can sell me your package. And so, of course, he knows me after so many years, 22 years of working with the president of LMC. He knew I was going to do it. So, of course, I brought my research, went to the curriculum committee, which, of course, many of them are a group of naysayers. They've never taught online. They don't wish to teach online. They don't believe in teaching online. And many of them have taken those boring courses where there's no interaction, there's no Confer, there's not even a Wimba voice file. And so you're trying to convince people that don't even like online education that we should enhance our existing program and become eventually an associate's degree campus with fully online courses for the full associate, which was my charge as online distance education chair. So in the end, this study was very valuable. The observations in student achievement, I liked this part right here. The hybrid course observed seems to show promising results. Retention success rates are higher than the face-to-face comparable course offered. So I'm going to use my little pointer here, get real technological. And this right here is what opened the eyes of the president and vice president of my college. Well, first thing my president said is, Laura, you know, we don't need money, which was real hard to believe. And Pete said to me, we don't need money, so if you designed a virtual college for the district, it really wouldn't benefit the college because we don't have a problem in that area. However, I realized that it's important because we're way out in the agricultural district in Brentwood. And it's very hard for people to drive to campus, and the expense of driving, some don't even have cars, we don't have good public transportation access. So he decided that he was going to start listening to me a little bit more and allowing me to promote online learning at our college. So now we have nearly all courses at Los Medanos College online. A few of our difficult courses we talked about last night, chemistry, for example, was one, the sciences, the physical education class, but there are ways to do this. Yeah. But then what started happening is that faculty members, let me get back to my links, faculty members started to complain a little bit about teaching online. This is what's been happening. They started to drop out. There was a huge interest initially in teaching online. Then the faculty members would come to the distance education committee and say, this is really hard. We've been putting hours and hours into designing our courses. We're teaching accounting online. We're teaching, art, music, and it's very difficult. So our committee then had to do some footwork, and we designed our best practices guide. We designed a training component for faculty at our campus in which to be assigned a Blackboard classroom, you have to take our courses as faculty trainers. And of course, they have to learn Confer. So that's the carrot. If they do not take the course, we do not issue them a course room. So this is one of our ways to get around some of the politics in terms of academic senate and their complaints about how you can't force a faculty member to have a training. But we decided we were going to take the leap and do that. So now, each faculty member that comes in new, or anyone who wishes to design a course or maintain a course, has to have met the criteria of a training in Blackboard and a training in Confer, and of course a review of the best practices and such. So this document took us 2 years to write. We also wrote policy for our campus. We did 2 research papers. All of it is online and you're welcome to use it. So the next thing that, actually I've got to tell you that one of the reasons why I personally wanted to teach online and what John Gonder and I did, in the summers, I live in Costa Rica, and this sort of eventually pulls everything together. And my dream was to teach out of the country when I retire someday and be an effective quality instructor outside the United States. So when John Gonder and I decided 10 years ago to design the online class for grammar in Spanish, I said to him, "Can I teach it from the jungle of Costa Rica?" And he said, "Sure you can." So every summer I live in Costa Rica in a 60-acre rainforest jungle. And I take a rusty old bus downtown to an internet cafe and I teach my courses. If I'm lucky enough to have good internet access, I get to use, this is my story I wrote about my life in Costa Rica. Some people buy ski boats with their disposable income. Others buy summer homes. I bought a jungle. So the idea of teaching outside the United States, all of you know it's possible. I'm sure you've done it. You have students from outside, but the idea of going to another country and living in the future and being able to do what you do in the United States, that was one of the reasons I decided to become an online teacher. Another reason I thought would be great would be I could bring the countries of the languages that I'm teaching into the lives of the students through Confer. So this sort of became a reality for me only a few months ago when I attended a conference through Wiley. Wiley is a book company that has been around for 200 years. Michelle actually did a little research in Wiley. You probably know Wiley, as many of your textbooks in higher education. Founded in 1807, Edgar Allan Poe was published. Who else did they say? Washington Irving. So they invited me to a conference. They invited me to a conference. They had heard that I was teaching online through California community colleges in Florida State, Maryland, and that I was doing something very different, which was Confer, and they wanted to hear about it. So I was in Miami in November, did a little presentation on my philosophy of moving from an asynchronous to a synchronous, and trying to move faculty members in that direction, and how I've still been trying to do that. And we discussed the opportunity for students to study abroad without leaving their homes. And this is the pilot project that we're working on right now. And the idea is that each student has access to a live learning component on a weekly basis in a language immersion program. Now, this resolved a few of my dilemmas that I was having with faculty members. Faculty members coming to me and saying, you know, we really like your best practices, but all your policy and everything you're training us, we really like that, but we don't have time. We're on this committee, we're doing this, we're designing this. We don't have time to learn all this technology, Laurie. What do we do? So 2 things happen. Either they utilize their time and learn it, and they implement it, or they don't do it at all. And I can tell you, the percentage of these people is very low compared to the percentage of these people. I might have 5% of my faculty that are really gung-ho about learning Confer. They want to do live learning. They get as far as maybe an online workbook. And then I have faculty who don't want to do anything but asynchronous. So this idea that Wiley came up with, and I totally support, would be that each student that purchases a textbook, and we're looking at just world languages right now, and we're trying it as a pilot for Spanish with Confer, would be that when you purchase your textbook for the class and your online workbook, you are also purchasing 1 hour or 2 hours a week of live learning conferencing in an immersion program in either Costa Rica, the university is right next to my property, so I would hook them up there, or to the Antigua Guatemala, which you're going to see here in a minute, because they're going to pipe in their hellos to you this morning from Antigua. So the student would be paying not just for a textbook and an online workbook, but they would be paying for, in a sense, a TA. So the faculty member would not have to do all of this footwork and design, would really literally hand it over to the immersion school in Latin America, and they would take over for the student for that 1 hour. They would be the you. And it's almost like a no-brainer, because the students right now economically cannot afford to fly to these immersion schools. My students are always saying, I'd love to go to Costa Rica with you, I'd love to go to Spain. They don't have the money right now to travel. They barely have the money for their textbooks. So instead, aquí, perdona. So instead, when they're issued their textbook, issued their My Spanish Lab or whatever the equivalent would be for online learning in a workbook type support system, they would also have their 1 hour. For example, what they show here, this is just one of our clips that we made, put up on a screencast. I'm not sure how clear this is going to be, but Elena and Susie are going to be in here in a minute to show you how they do it directly from Guatemala. But let's see if this will allow me to show the clip. It's a little slow. But what they do is you've got your, my little pointer here, you have your instructor in Guatemala, and this is actually the son of the Wiley company. He's in New York. So we decided he needed to try it out, because if anyone can sell this, it will be Nate. So he's learning about las frutas tropicales de Latinoamérica. And Nate is a student in New York, and I think that's Susie. She's in Guatemala, and they set up their learning programs on a weekly basis. And he is actually... This is actually a WebEx. Wiley uses WebEx, and what we want to do is move it to Confer, and that will work well with the California community colleges. So what I'm about to do right now is take you to Guatemala Antigua with my colleagues, and this is the first time we've ever done this, and this is the most safe group in the state, and I know that you're very forgiving. And like Blaine said, Laurie, this is the place to come to try this out, because they're going to give you your feedback that you need. So I could speak with you for another 2 hours, but I'd rather just get in here and get your feedback. And if anyone has questions in the future about the research or the best practices, all the footwork we've done to develop policy at our college. You know, our college, our district is very strict about everything we do. You can't take a step without a policy at our college campus. And I have learned, you know, I ran for city council for the city of where I live, and I lost by 50 votes. That was right after I last saw you. And the president of the college asked me, he says, Laurie, he said, you came really close. You're going to run again? And I said, you know what, Pete? The curriculum committee, the distance ed committee, this college has trained me to become a politician, because it is very hard to get anything through our campus, and to simply get this far has been remarkable. So that college has trained me to be a politician, no question about it. So let's see if Elena's on. She has a little presentation for you this morning. Elena and Susie, she has uploaded some of the files from the textbook and would give you a little bit of an idea. Let's see. Yeah, she hasn't given me the mic yet. Hola, Elena. Estamos aquí. And they've been waiting all morning at the language school in Guatemala. So let's see if it works. Okay. Okay. Is she there?
Hola. She gave you the microphone.
Hola.
You press down on
Yeah.
F2.
Hola Elena, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo estás?
Hola, Laurie, bien.
Mu- Ya por fin, gracias por venir. Sí, ¿quieres,
No pasa nada.
¿quieres hablar un rato? Yeah, I think so. Again, like I said,
How much time do I have?
I know, that's a good question. 5 minutos.
5 minutos?
Mm.
Is there any way we can fix the delay? Because I keep hearing
She says she's saying there's a delay. That was.
myself with an echo.
Any ideas for the delay, folks?
I'm not noticing a.
I don't think it's a delay. I think what she's hearing is her own audio because your mic is on. So if you push to talk instead of leaving your mic on,
Yeah, you might
solve
not
it.
hear the,
Okay.
so click off. Yeah, there
All
she
right.
goes.
Okay, Laurie, it's not a big deal. I just keep hearing myself. It's a little bit annoying.
Okay.
I'll continue.
Ahora
Laurie,
sí.
do you want me to start?
Sí, sí.
Your mic is not pushed.
Yeah, I just wrote ahora sí. Yeah, she should be okay. She's from Madrid, and they brought her in through Wiley. Her position was professor at University of Louisiana. When Katrina hit, Elena's classes were all canceled at the university, and they forced her to put all of her courses online. And she quickly did the best she could and realized that the best she could was not good enough for her personally. So she left the University of Louisiana, signed up to be the person at Wiley to start to develop components for online teaching and learning for world languages, especially Spanish, so that she could be a more effective, and we could all be more effective instructors. And she has such great stories.
She took a disaster and made it.
She is a story on her own. And then, of course, building this program with Guatemala.
Hola?
Hola. She's bilingual. Let's just see how we do. Again, thank you for being patient since. Yep.
Can you hear me?
CCC. She's lovely. We have so much fun. Wiley's sending her from New York to San Francisco to see me next weekend just to review
I'm here.
everything we've done.
Give her a green check.
Well, hi everyone from Antigua, Guatemala. I'm here in the beautiful city of Antigua with my colleagues, Lucy Velázquez. And I would like to just share very briefly with you what Laurie and me were planning this semester. We're
Can you
very,
hear?
very excited about this. It's implementing online web conferencing lesson for Laurie's students for online courses. So I'm here right now these days, spending a few days in Antigua getting prepared with a roommate and with Susie for this school program we're going to start. And I just wanted to share with you a couple of pictures we took yesterday from my hotel.
Yeah.
Let me see, I'm going to illuminate, but this is me.
That's Elena.
My name is Elena, and I don't know if I correct presentation. And this is Susie, and this is Jessica, her little daughter.
Qué linda la Jessica.
Well, very briefly, I started into a meeting. What I'm doing right now, I work in teaching Spanish online. I have my own company, and I also work for a publishing company. And what we're trying to do, Laurie and me, is test this idea to see if we could change the idea of online education for the Spanish class, because we feel that there is it's great potential with the technologies nowadays, and there is a real need for authentic interaction, real time. So lingual meeting was a concept that occurred to me after teaching at the University of New Orleans. After the Hurricane Katrina, we went from traditional to e-learning from one day to another. It was an experience. And after this experience, I realized that I wanted to really work with technology and doing something. I was really satisfied with the teaching Spanish online. I think you cannot expect students to learn Spanish with a computer. And this idea, we meeting is bringing the Spanish language to Wiley Class, which is an online learning center provided by Wiley Publishing, and a virtual class, like Illuminate. which everyone by now is very familiar with that. While in class, B2B, you probably have heard, you probably use other online learning platforms. If you are digital, you have access to students have access to a digital book and a lot of online resources. And also, the students, the study is combined with lessons one-on-one, where they actually practice everything that they cannot do with online learning center like Writing Class, which is one-on-one, authentic, communicative lessons, very conversational. They are not lecturing types. And
No lecture.
if we have a couple of minutes, I would like just to go and let Susie just show you in 1 minute how she teaches online. For example, we're going to start with Illuminate, and this is we just learned a little bit about that yesterday, but I think she has a good handle.
Qué bien. Ya viene Susie. This would be a Spanish 50 introductory Spanish course. Vamos a ver dónde
Hola,
está.
saludos a todos y todas. Soy Susi Velázquez y soy de Guatemala. Les haré la presentación de cómo hacemos una clase interactiva con el estudiante. De siempre vamos a utilizar las PowerPoint que tenemos siempre en la plataforma y utilizamos la metodología de que la maestra usa la primera y hace la pronunciación de la primera parte y el estudiante viene después para que el estudiante empiece a perder el miedo de comunicarse en español. Por ejemplo, aquí tenemos hola, ¿qué tal?
So she's saying that many times the students are afraid to speak Spanish, but in this environment they feel more comfortable. Now, Susie speaks no English, so the students are immersed totally in the language, similar to how I started our presentation where you understood what I was saying from my voice and
Continuamos aquí con bien, gracias. Y me llamo Hugo. En esta parte, el estudiante puede cambiar su nombre y puede decir, me llamo Susi Velázquez. ¿Cómo te llamas? Y es
Susie's saying that they can put their own names in here and begin a conversation with her using the dialogue bubbles.
Si el estudiante no entiende o no comprende, regresamos a la número 3 para que el estudiante utilice el ejercicio tal y como está en la PowerPoint.
So she makes certain that all of this vocabulary is understood and they can use it proficiently before she goes to the next slide. So they're building proficiency levels. So she's saying the pronunciation, the rhythm, she makes certain that they have all of that before they go to the next level. And it's interesting because Elena is in Texas and New York often. And so she manages from the United States the immersion program through Illuminate and WebEx. She's showing the school now.
This is actually the school where they teach online. Outside they have the classes, and inside they have the computers, and they can meet with students all over the world and teach Spanish online. Oh, qué lindo project.
Qué lindo.
I mean, this is such an exciting project, and I would love to talk to you more, but I know we have the time limit. And let me know if you have any questions. Laurie maybe can pass you the email in case you wonder. And muchas gracias. Well, muchas gracias from Antigua.
Qué lindo. It worked.
Great pleasure.
Turn your mic on.
Turn your mic on while class.
Oh, okay. Oh, a ver, ahora. ¡Bravo! Están felices. She's so great. That's great. Oh, I'm so glad it worked. See, and there you go.
Very good.
Thank you. So it sort of shows that even on the fly, you could probably make a go, even if it may not be perfect, the sound may not be perfect, or, you know, if you only have just the slide and not the gals there, or one part or another, it's just even the chat, you can have an effective learning situation, even if not everything is, you know, packaged the way you want it. So there we go. Muchas gracias. Thank you.